fields. So then our next presenter is Geshe. Thabkhe Lo. He's from Sarajevo, Australia. He was born in Tibet. He joined in Sarah from Australia inside Tibet, and then went to India, and again joined Sarajevo, Australia in India, and finished all the studies of Buddhism, and then he's also sent this to Sangpo, and all of them joined at Emory University in the USA and studied science for graduate science courses from that Emory University. And since then, after graduation of Geshe Geshe also taking the responsibility of teaching in Central Australia, as well as he takes the responsibility of research on Thukdam, research on dream, and so on. So I'd like to invite our presenters to start the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. And first of all, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude for giving me this wonderful opportunity to present our research projects, particularly on Thukdam Dream Yoga research, and Geshe will give presentation on his research on emptiness and debate kind of skills. Yesterday, in a brief conversation with Bhikkhu Maya, he suggested me to give a brief introduction. What is Thukdam and what is Dream Yoga? I want to express thanks for that because initially I was planning to focus mostly on the research procedures and mechanisms and the process that are involved in this kind of research projects. And because of his suggestion, I tried to briefly introduce or define what is Thukdam here. As you see on the screen, Thukdam generally refers to utilizing these subtleties of consciousness. In Buddhist, Sanskrit-based Buddhist tradition, we talk about the different levels of consciousness, gross level and subtle level and the subtlest level. And the subtlest level of consciousness, it is referred as clear light, the subtlest one. When highly advanced Pantic practitioners gains access to these kind of the subtle consciousness and transforming these state into a meditative, it refers to Thukdam, and particularly in today's case, today's situation, Thukdam mostly refers to post-clinical death meditative state. When highly advanced practitioners passed away, they do stay in that kind of state, and their body remain fresh, like and alive, without going through any kind of decomposition process. That is my brief introduction. What is Thukdam? And then this Thukdam research project, under the umbrella of this research project, there are mainly two kind of the approach of investigation. One is investigating Thukdam itself. Whenever we observe Thukdam cases, we try to go there and do scientific sort of research. We use different methodology, different kind of tools, and I will share these tools detailed in the letter. And then the second part, we do under this umbrella of Thukdam project, we also do research on different types of meditation in attempts to really understand what type of meditation might lead to Thukdam cases. The only way to do that is to really initiate some kind of research on the aligned practitioners doing different type of meditation, and that is the one. That is the second project. And then, with respect to the labs that we have, we do have three sort of labs. One is in Galikobi, it's called A lab at Geshe Monastery, and then the second lab we have here in Mongkot at Lama Monastery, that is called Unit B lab. And then the third one we have in Gyudu, Dharamsala, and under these kind of the lab units, we do have many research and monks from different monasteries, and many of the monks have been actually trained in Russia. They have been invited to Russia and to get more kind of proper training in research methodology and utilizations of different tools and techniques that are very much needed for conducting this kind of research. And then to really have this kind of research, it is very essential to get support from all the monasteries, adults of the older monasteries, and administrations of the older monasteries. And we have been receiving tremendous support from the adults of the monastery and from the administrations. And because of that, since 2009, we have been able to conduct research or investigation on quite large number of the practitioners, and these are the picture illustrated, displayed in the screen are the monks who have been invited to Russia and getting trained in this research, and I will not talk much on this part. And the research methodological aspect, it involves using EEG, which is kind of placing some kind of electrodes on the scalp of the brain, and then it hooked to the laptop, and through these kind of the brain activation, neuronal activity on the brain, we can observe certain kind of correspondent waves of brain function on the computer screen, and based on that we can roughly estimate what kind of the process or what kind of thought process is going on, what kind of brain region that is associated with certain kind of the cognitive function has been activated or something like that. This is the one way to do one way. This is the one method that we have been using for investigating different types of meditation. And this is the picture in the screen. This is what it looks like in the real lab. When we do the research, we will have one kind of the experimenter who is on the table just in front of the laptop, and the one who is sitting just in front of the experimenter is the practitioner being investigated, being examine his meditation skills and thought process. And the picture here is the real kind of the direct sort of observation to a Thukdam case. Started from 2021 to 2023, we have observed 24 cases of Thukdam from different monasteries, and one was happened in Lodoe. That one was the longest one. That practitioner stayed in Thukdam more than 36 days, more than a month. And then we had a Thukdam case here from our monastery in Changse, and also from Dalai and Jibun and Sarah as well. And one from the Dalai stayed in Thukdam for 26 days, and two from our monastery and the Changse stayed in Thukdam for 28 days, and then also another one in 26 days. I'm not supposed to share their name. All these names need to be kept separate. We respect the privacy, and because of that, I'm not naming who their practitioners are, who their practitioners are. And so, with respect to the experimental sort of procedures and tools that we have been using, we did use different type of actually measurements. First, we tried to use EEG and try to see is there any kind of brain activities going on when they are in Thukdam state. Through this kind of investigation, we couldn't find any kind of activation happening on the brain level. So maybe the tool that is being used is not sensitive enough to detect certain kind of the activation in the brain, or maybe there is no activation for kind of the activities or the functionality functions on the brain level. That is uncertain to predict or to state. And then we couldn't find much result in this kind of process, we added another sort of procedure in this kind of research project. We did use thermography. Actually, thermography. I'm going to show you what thermography looks like here. We use thermography because by using thermography, what we can really detect is the party distribution happening in their body, the distribution of the body, and we try to see is there any kind of the temperature variations happening in certain parts of the physical body. And in one, among many of the Thukdam cases, in one case we observed some kind of the heat at the heart region, little bit sort of higher than other part of the bodies, other parts of the body. And besides that, we couldn't detect much kind of heat or temperature variation in other Thukdam cases. And since both of these techniques or tools, turned out to be not really useful in terms of investigating and Thukdam itself, we also try to come up with different sort of the approach, and then the new approach was the using forensic experts, the forensic methods. Forensic experts actually are the one who has a very deep knowledge or deep understanding on the decompositional kind of process, degenerative process of the physical body. When someone happened to be, murdered in a kind of very secret way, and someone happened to be dead in a very isolated way, and we find that after a few days, after a few weeks, or after a month, these experts are trained to observe how decomposition, becomes in process just right after death. So these sort of, the experts and this sort of procedure, we felt it is very relevant and to investigate Thukdam case, because whenever we see a Thukdam case, whenever we observe a Thukdam case, it is very clear, at least to our eye, naked eye, there is no kind of decomposition, and manifestations, there is no manifestations of decomposition or expressions of decomposition or degenerative kind of process happening at the very, the outward, appearance level. Because of that, we try to add this sort of procedure in this kind of Thukdam case, and through this process, in every day, we take pictures in the morning and videos recorded in the morning, and also in the evening we do take pictures and record the videos, and then we send it to the experts. And through this way, we found a very unique sort of decomposition kind of process compared to the normal sort of people, ordinary people's death. So usually, for the ordinary people, when they, just right after death, the decomposition comes in a kind of very sequential process, starting kind of in cadaveric sports and rigor mortis kind of the process, and then the discolorations, and then the emissions of the bad or poor smells, and then the blistering, all this kind of comes in a very sequential process. But in opposed to this kind of process, for the real practitioners in Thukdam cases, it is not the same case. Whenever there is a real Thukdam case, at the very beginning, it's very hard to observe decompositional process, and once they started early kind of cadaveric sport, then there is a huge sort of a gap to manifest the late part of the decomposition kind of cadaveric sport. And it doesn't happen in a sequential kind of a manner. It does not happen in a sequential manner. Once the late part of the decomposition kind of the manifestation kicks in, then it goes very rapid. It goes very rapid, very kind of fast. And so through that way, we found some kind of unique sort of decomposition kind of degenerative process happening in these practitioners, and based on that, we were able to publish a scientific sort of a journal on Thukdam cases. And you can actually see the delayed decomposition changing in indoor setting, in Tibetan monastic community in India, are case reports. So this is the first kind of research publication on Thukdam, and first time Thukdam, the term itself, being used in scientific community. So we as a monastic researcher, we consider this is a quite sort of progressing sort of achievement, and this is something what I really like to highlight in this presentation. And basically, through this sort of, and on top of that, I also want to add some kind of other research methodology that we would like to add in the next kind of the steps. We have been collaborative sort of discussion with NIHAMS, the National Mental Institute of India in Bangalore. They do have some kind of specific sort of the tools that can capture the air molecules in the room atmosphere, and based on that, they can identify what kind of a molecule is actually circulating in that kind of surrounding. Because the reason why we have this kind of research method is just primarily, whenever we observe phenol cases, we happen to be kind of, smelling some kind of, pleasant odors, good smells. And we thought, in Tibetan we call it kind of sutintima. And the kind of moral, when someone who has been kept, never transgressed their kind of moral precepts, and itself has some kind of, its own sort of, the emissions of, some kind of, the smell. And we try to detect that in this kind of process. That is in the next kind of, the step. And then here, our achievement in brief, we have objectively proven the existence of post-modern behavior of the human body that has not been previously described in the scientific literature, which can be interpreted as a Thukdam, right? A sort of relatable to these Thukdam phenomena, and most importantly, we were able to really lay a foundation or basis for further sort of research on Thukdam cases. That is our current kind of the status. Thukdam itself, to be honest, it is a mental phenomena, and it is extremely hard to reveal through the scientific sort of approach, because it's a kind of metaphysics. It's not a concrete object, and therefore there are so many challenges to overcome, so many hurdles to overcome. And in any way, by the guidance and encouragement of the Dalai Lama, we have been continuously carrying on this research, and in each step we are clearly moving forward. And then, with respect to the second project that I have shared under the umbrella of Thukdam Research Project, that is investigating alive meditators, practitioners, and to try to see what kind of meditation could lead to Thukdam cases. This is our second publication, research publication from our group. And in this research, as you see, yes. Okay, Geshe remind me to share what I have stated so far in Tibetan briefly, so I will do that in brief. So that the Thabkhe Lo the Geshe was in English to cinema sharing with me. That also Thukdam ki lesson di nama that's all Thukdam se kharese modules na rosis and these Thukdam se the delays ergi and or English to system and Thukdam ki ko le each should be to the Thukdam se the and tenema shinzen kashi in the 기부 방법은 소수이 내가보다 근데 지금 장로에게 그게 지금 인양과시 내가로 과외가 되게 동작사 인상만 시에 거제 선정 공개 연구에 대해 디나마시 시기 요리스에 안테네 이 레슨 이 또 공사지 정말쇼기 가로는 된 네 페이지가 지금 담바 아니 먼저 이 나오는 투당 뉴스 조리가 봐야 되게 시주시에 지가 팀이 되게 뭐 한제지 그냥 시행하는 거예요. 지금 투당 주발에 연구도시에기 건도시에 소다시에기 공장에 도시 시주시에게 사반이 지는 조리기 와래 다 투당기 디자인도 주고 뭐지 다들 경례 계획하고 있어 자산 하나만 소비 연례기 도시가 연례기 통해 단다 하는 소고 대시기 또 조절 조리기 생각해서 이 그게 우리 소리가 단다 아니 그게 가시지 이 두단 역시 최종 대리 수준의 그런 것으로야 한 주지 두단들 그런 역시는 저희 주지 고정 상황이야 아니 최종이 돼서 이제 이 양식 모의가 양아서 가르쳐주는 게 어렸을 때마다 한 다들이 레디구리스 선발라 이 지스 선발 한디 아니 그게 롤레를 되게 롤레기 나오는 레벨이 그게 정확하게 있는 어디 무슨 생제 아니 이번에 가르쳤을 때마다 아니 아주 두단기가 뭐야 사주를 놓을 때는 두단 수비가 뭐야 수비이 아니 류기 표현이야 사주 캡셀에 먼저 얻는 거 수비 사실 사실 사주 체화다 오늘 사실이야 사실 사주의 저기 총알들이 누구도 대신 이 시기 상관하고 두단 중에 치기야 다른 인간의 대식 수고 이나 현대 요의 주의대의 유서로 정성 이번에는 두단 중에 신발 3만 원 지금 도시니까 신발 소유 3만 원 되는 요금도 되네 먼저 두단기 양식 이 그게 단어기 나와야 내세놀이 부분에 주 존재기에 도용하래 아니 단다 사주의 생제권에 대대 등진 직종을에 야 세리기 되게 나와라 야 지금 이대야고 정도들이 가능한 지구가 있어서 하는 세리기 즉 사실 성쇼 되게 두야 두야 되게 존재 아니 맞소 이번에 제대로 아주 가르치기를 했습니다. 단다 지기 forensic experts 이거 forensic 답변을 사실은 증거 단계기 증거 단계기 또는 미 프로세스가 소화다 아니 아직 미도 아니 지기 지금 스미 이제 내일 중에 좋은 비즈니스 등장 같이 제서 하고 나서 되게 내주 먹고 연구이 참가가 전소리야 아니 때 공부 연구 조단이 그림을 찾아 아니 지금 생리기 통해 한 geshe나 아니 장소가 되게 요되니 개발 먹고 싶어요. 이거는 제대로 하는 게 되게 먹고 싶어요. 또 제대로 시행이 상마다 아니 당장 기부 통과도 공부도 내가보다 아니 그게 공부 연구 조단이 지금 하나 소리 제대로 동아리아 연구 조금에 대한 것에 되고 있는 신지 아니 금수익이 제대로 되는 때에 노력이 상마다 땅은 수지고 정말 공부식으로 미주마시 공부선배기 현재 공부 연구 조단다 누나 하지 않게 부모만이 이거 시공을 두시네 두담을 중에 사실 두시니에서 디니에가 디시 송도 돈에 아니 먼저 세리기 나와라 아니 지기 세리 선수 세네기 나와야 아니 두담이 제리기 영식이 선수 해 담보도 두시네 거기서 그래 다 세리기 잡고 나와다 두담세 아니 표준하야 디 해담을 두시네 차득이 원래 디 샤네 알아서 지금 유바 뭔것이 디 영식이 되는 말이야 영식은 그 상관라 디 중간 시부식이 하는 것이 이슈고요. 아니 다 인구 정도이 두담들 중에 다 인구 정도이 세리기 나와나 아니 공부 연구조나 지금 한번 공부소들이 상관라 통모의 거 여러지 그런 쪽이 도시의 대마 스테이트를 주요가 단들 밀투에 한 세리기 나와나 아니 되게 두담을 거니까 신주시에서기 시제주요가 consulting to university today do시 세리유 지다 두담세리에 이 코스에 한 게시에 두사바다 한 세리기 제백이 통해 아저씨가 세리지에 항상 가지고 싶다기 원래 세계 이 마음시에 이게 세계 제사 유예되어 시나 아니 이게 수진지 오고 가야 아니 가서 넘기는 게 유예되어 되게 있나 이제 이게 돈에 아니 다시 제 보여진 것도 제 도움이 있을까 아니 관계 좀 보지 않는 게 레스포 이슈지 다 되네 이거지 아니 문제는 있잖아 now the second the second part, as you clearly see in the traditional Buddhist meditation uses negativity experience among practitioners. So in this research, we have had 104 practitioners from Unit A and Unit B, from Grande and Jerusalem, monastics, and when we did the investigation. Yes, we did this investigation when they were immersed into analytical and single meditation on emptiness. And what we found, in this kind of research, when the practitioners completely immersed into their contemplative meditation, at that time, we actually deliberately or purposefully keep some kind of sound to their ears and try to see how much that kind of sound distracts away the practitioner from their focus. Yes. When the practitioners are completely immersed in their contemplative meditation on emptiness, we purposefully induce some kind of a certain cue, sound through their eyes, and we try to assess how much that kind of sound affects or distracts them away from their focus. So that's the reduction of the mismatch. That is what's called the reduction of mismatch negativity. There is. So when someone who is in a coma, and at that stage, if someone actually into certain cue, at that time, even we could see some kind of stimulation activation at the neurological basis. And compared to these states, with respect to the intensity of the activation, these practitioners are more in focus, less in distraction. So that is the kind of the result we found in this kind of the meditation. 이 먼저 세력이 선수 미만이 차대기요. 세력이 선수 미만이 나와 준비 대표리 하는 가리는 수가 있거든요. 되게 나와라. 내년시간에 이 아니 단다 된사 숨기 나눠내 멤버 가다 준비 시요래. 그런 나와서 또바이나 제공당 세시적인 조공 이슈가 갑자야. 아니 만주기 아니 같이 고비아들 이게 레세루리가 내가 또바이나 냐면 중심이 내가 그냥 체도니에 먼저 나오는 다단이요. 다디가 유사하라 다디 액체네 아니 센슈르를 이해하냐 아니 그게 무슨 말이도 아니 가서 중에 그제 도도 다기요. 디데 유사하라만 저기 준비를 가리니에 레스다나 페나샤스나 나서 디나노 레베기 수쇼디 마이나 지기 세무 수치무 이게요. 파쇼디 마이나 세무 샤라 세무 메데와지 모네기구나 세무 메데와. 오다 지금 남주 미 재미있게 계시 꼬막 세비 구시네 메마나 나데데 요구도와 인제기 갑이야 탄다 다 구이나마 이마이나 안시로게 자와시 유에데와디 페세무요. 다 디나 슈세기 찬이 나세기 찬이 두와 이마이나 간다 봄 도시에 년출나데 주체리 아니 셈슈로레 이야다 예베기 나발 레바단 제베기 아니 제베 파사 주체리 용원 도시에리 만족이 준데리 보시는 이거에서 어디 먼저 준비해야 개체 무슨 보시는 시기 유에서 양식 근데 마치 컴퍼니들이야 자 제시 조금 더 제공 나오는 게 다른 준비시 다 시작해요. 주주기 전에 무시되나 양비 차렸다. 23만 아까도 이게 많은 것이 이제 주주 총선을 디 Geshe需求性. Karena dia menunjukkan dosa ini. Karena sendiri masih yang mau susu. So I will skip so many of yes. No. No response. Less distraction. Yes. Essentially, less distraction. So when someone is in the coma, if someone, a scientist actually send a cue, like a sound to the ear, then they can observe some kind of brain activation, neurological-based activation. But these practitioners, when they are undertaking those contemplative studies, meditation, even when they are, stimulated, some kind of, the outset cues, they couldn't, the researchers observe much activation from the distraction kind of, distracted activity. Okay, now the second. This is very interesting, and I personally, have so much passion for this kind of research. This is in the dream yoga research. As Bhikkhu Mahayana, asked me to do a brief introduction what dream yoga is. Here I try to come up with a very short brief, the definitions of dream yoga. Dream yoga is also a part of Tantric practice, and it refers to creating the content of dreams into a meditative state, transforming the content of a dream into a meditative kind of state. That is what it refers to. Dream yoga, and this is just kind of a very introduction. I will not try to emphasize the concept itself. I will just directly delve into the process that is involved in this kind of research. So, how do we do dream yoga research? That's the question. And how can we really experiment the dream yoga kind of the process and phenomenon, the scientific sort of the approach? In science, in the literature, there has been so many research on lucid dreaming. So lucid dreaming is lucid dream refers to recognizing, being able to recognize dream as a dream in dreams. And that's what lucid dream is. So lucid dreaming skill is, for some people, it is kind of innately gained kind of skill. Without need to be proper kind of training, they do have their innate sort of skill. And because of that, scientists did research on lucid dreamers. And how did they do it? How did they do it? They did when the participants in sleep, and okay, I think maybe I also should say that, and there are, someone who is innately able to have a lucid dream, and also lucid dream can be trained, can be induced. So there is an instruction for the induction of lucid dreaming in the scientific community, and as well as in the Buddhist community. In the scientific community, I asked the researchers, where did you get this kind of instruction? And they said, some other researchers did in the past, and have no idea where the original resources. So I told them, they must have, taking these instructions from the Buddhist literature. It's almost 90%. So they do kind of provide instructions ahead of time, and then try to see whether they're kind of, instructions, effective for them to have a lucid dream. And many of the individuals, have had lucid dream. And when the participant come into the lab in sleep, they hook up the EEG, on the head, pretty much same as the we did for the meditation part. A unique, okay, without going much detail, I will go to the process. Okay, the unique in this part is in each sleep stages there are correspondent different brain activities. Sleep stage 1 has different brain activity, sleep stage 2 has different brain activity, sleep stage 3 has different brain activity, and then the last one we call, the scientists call REM sleep stage. In the REM sleep stage, it's more common to have dream in that state. Through the scientific findings, REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep stage. Okay, that's REM, is a duration. In that, it's more common to have sleep on stage. The unique characteristics of the REM sleep stage, here you can see on the screen, at that stage, the participant can actually move their eye left and right at that stage. And also, at that stage, the muscle chin gets frozen. And it's very unique to this sleep stage. And on top of that, each brain activity of the different brain region has a different brain wave corresponds to this sleep stage. And because of that, just observing the CTEG activity on the computer screen, we can easily able to tell that participant is going through REM sleep stage. So whenever we see in REM sleep stage, naturally people do kind of eye movement, but that is different than left and right eye movement. They do kind of an eye rolling. That's different. So before the practitioner go to bed, we actually train them to certain cues associated with certain tasks. For example, if we set a cue like a beep, 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 then you must respond left and eye movement if you are in lucid dream. Because this is a really kind of contradictory to our common sense. Because in our common sense we think even if we send some kind of cues at that stage, the cue would not be able to register at the conscious level. But that is not the case from the scientific finding. And because of that, whenever we send a cue, if the participant is in lucid dream, then he can communicate us back through left and eye movement. So if you have a lucid dream, please give a signal 2 times left and eye movement. And on top of that, in here, also in this sleep stage, also the participant can do the sniffing, like this one, sniffing. So this kind of the ability we can also associate with certain tasks. If you are doing meditation, please give us sniffing signal. Sniffing signal. So this is pretty much well established in the scientific findings and very well grounded and so you see here responses of the beeping sounds look like this one when sounds signal. If the left eye movement will look like this one, and if someone gives a sniffing kind of very like if you're doing a meditation of Tennessee of the Avalokiteshvara, please give us a signal to the left eye movement. No, the sniffing. And the sniffing signal pretty much looks like that one. And on top of that, the practitioner or the participant cannot lie, because on these brain patterns, EEG patterns, we can be certain that the practitioner or the participant is whether asleep or not. And on top of that, once we detect the EEG responses from the participant, we wake the participant up and ask the participant whether did you hear the cues that we sent, whether did he respond to the cue or not. If he verbally confirms, kind of giving response in his sleep, and then these two kind of the conditions are based on these two conditions, it only becomes verified lucid dreaming. Verified lucid dreaming. That is maybe okay. This is very interesting one. So from our kind of dream yoga research project, we gave the instructions ahead of time to the people who have never had a kind of the lucid dreaming and lucid dreaming, and we try to see whether that is effective enough to induce lucid dream or not. And after giving the instructions, we invite them to the lab and then try to assess their kind of ability to have lucid dreaming. And out of 17, we observed four kind of lucid dreamer having four participants having lucid dreaming. And most importantly, it is very challenging for us to get a good, authentic dream yoga practitioner as a participant, because most of the dream yoga practitioners, most of the authentic practitioners prefer to keep their practice in secret, and they prefer to stay low and not prefer to reveal their kind of practice. And because of that, we have been having quite hard time to get participation from the dream yoga practitioners. But fortunately, recently, I was doing research and investigation in dream yoga in Himachal, and I will not share the exact location and the name of the person. And we had one good dream yoga practitioners, and we invited him to our. We have had all the tools, and we have invited him a certain kind of location, and we did research on him 3 nights, observing all 3 nights. And strikingly, he said that he could do responses in dream, and he could recite all these visual kind of recitation in his dream, and he could do lots of meditation, various types of meditation, and these are the responses that we got from their practitioners. It is very clear left and right eye movement. And what he said is that, he will give twice when he is in lucid, and he will twice our left eye movement. When he is in meditation, he gives 3, and when he is completing meditation, he gives 4 kind of left eye movement signal. And that is, and he did not only do one kind of meditation, but he did several sequences of meditation. And that's why we are seeing these kind of responses from him in his dream, in his sleep. That is the amazing, remarkable sort of result that we have found. And as other resources, you guys have been observing debate in the debate courtyard. We have published one paper here that with the scientists. If you have a time to read, it is also kind of appropriate resources. And also on the compassion part, we do have another kind of. It's not me. It is the compassion part is some other kind of the professors, and they did publication on this. And thank you so much. Now I will do a very brief talk in Tibetan regarding to the dream yoga practices. So that the Ninguji, Milam Ninju the Jiving and Shikto and Tusin, Sixu Shobasi, that the Milam Ninju the Jiving and Shiki, the Suzuki, Chachavina, Sikhasu, Semla, Tona Shiviji, Segi, and Shinjuki, Kabuji Sadi, that penetration that Manzu Shinjuki, Talandi, Kalisubi, or Resi Samala, China, Siri, he began a Tamil University. 그런 그 루시 드림스 상관다 세리기 루시 드림스 상관다 내가 뭐마디 미런 시바랑 해샤 미런 시바디 내지기 미모시리아 요구요사에 아니 디 마이베 양식 가지고 상황이 좋은 나와라 아니면 세리기 더 뭐지 유에다가 조제디 세리기 되게 제시는 교실 강사 교실 강사를 상관은 먼저 통로는 크게 아니 그게 남들이 miram civic in France 교실 강사를 교실 통비 상관라 아니 먼저 디 쇼는 나는 송샤가 주다 하자니 통비가 있어서 또 주도 간에라 그랬을 컨디션이 상관로 분석을 같은 세리기 심주층에 나서들의 분석이 도시는 교실 강사들이 세야지 마도신 통비 조건들이 세야지 그런 세우시는 디지 상관로 디지 자주 복주지 하나 배셔고 좋은 송샤가 주제 얘기 때문에 자샤나 근데 kita 좋은 유행을 비슷한 것들마다 한편마다 제가 아니 지금 디발이야 아니 지금 이게 생도시라고 소파도 무식 그런 소리 다가라 아니 비교지 않는 거 무속이 아니 컨셉이나 외샤고가 그때가 남주노 조 외샤고 소지리 아니 송제기 돈에 아니 무식이야 물론 스티무님이 무식이야 디 아니 양면제니 아니 지금 스티무 연구도 신주시에 지가 아니 신주시에 Geshe 나중에는 기내줘야 되사기 그래 사회 차리는 기내줘봐 이 자신에는 항상이 아니 지가서 그래 갈래가고도 굉장히 좋으니 다사람이 내는 이만치 지 배우내줘봐 직상아 아니 견다지에 굉장히 많이 말 수수기 아니 지기 가서 그래 그부심이 돈에 아니 역시나는데 되게 진상하다 내 자신에게 항상 이거도 이래야 당연히 같이 인식하고 싶으면 nani tanda di kige doshi delia tanda international Sangpo which is also a cup to do Musachogi Sigmiron Ginejo Tanda Jimmy Shina where registered Tavana and Kajipena and also Urusugi Thukdam Yoshi Doshilia Panabaso Nia Jirasedu Minam Zuche Korea Shipuna where he came to Sineka Penaso or Tijay Tone the Kamachi Sadigu. That Melan that the film of Sonza and a couple to get from the Taranti, she said, the Taranti Kade Sambala, Sindi Ginanola, Nigi must to the Pape, and the lady Sere Manda Need to be Nigi Baton, Niva Sona, and Nigu Nego Sene, Dila Pape, Lady Sere, Lady Platon, Manda, Lady Dushus, and passage with one, Timanda. The lady in Sonsa, and Kunzula. Kandi lone tuzucheni ani kali le gane ani pige lone le tuition samala lone ki noel joshn jogi ta dela tene ani ni tuyo atide shi tu yo mase de ani miram yo de ali seri ki shimju na miram yo sam ma shesho de te samala mingu ni ne ko mingu de ma shi ku ni yo 지난 디마도 디네가 마도 모여와 되는 인사말에 요한 주체주의 민구민이 내가 사기 되는 데레레샤 다 민구민이 내가 세리에디 이게 좀 말하는 이게 좀 타마스로 이 지난 이게 좀 말씀드리면 이게 좀 지기야 방법이 이번 수많은 민구민이 양 방법이 야도 이번 에스에 거라는 정도 민구단이 데레레샤 다 민구민이 내가 우리가 통마이 지주지 가리오를 쓰는 깍들이 레지 놀이 기토네 이게 도저히 만다고 캐버치기 원래 통모만 같이야 네가서 거랑시수 이 파수 용구시니 민구시에 이거죠 민 치고시 파 얘가 이거 무슨 거도요 소소기 센소기 꾸는 배배도는 거가 이거 거도요 다만 신치기 디기네가 원래야 먼저 샤네 도저체리 아니 제레 빼는 사실 내내 샤네로 사샤와는 샤네 도저체리 제레 상관이 항상이 마뉴르 근데 제레 빼기 미리 삼아라 빼게 레베기 가서 빼게 나게 나와라 아니 내 이거기 투세로와 디타르 디 요새 제가 때문에 세리 돈에 가래다 부두고요 예수 삼아라 민구 유민내가 디 오다고 민구 유민이 이래도 조도다 그거 데레샤 세리야디 세리 나와 때문에 시작해요 다 단둘 디 강이야 그런 조시 좀 나와 다른 예수 삼아라 민구님이 이게 내가 뭐 계시 미시 다음을 미는 생각이 좋고요나 그래서 가르치기 위해서 아주 너무 나다는 거죠. bit the data. The data and became need of the quick social semi challenges in the June to make someone someone jungle to the Shabi or even in a term the that in job to you, there was saying and then that the June and Kesi ko Mini with time meaning Quran ki and Manye Honaya Mazuki bit that day time with somebody Kesi Kuran saving the that is also Hamilton meaning intimidation that in signing which was the Jordan computation. Competition. They take competitive with Samala, that time with Samala, Puri, that's who names it. That is nature in the giving you Tena, and you name and she did running from the Gilman. Penasas and that is Yogi, and if you get Kunungi, Pepegi, Ataki, Sutis, Yogi, number the dealer which was. You can't tell what did. And Tavana Shinji Mazu, Chief Harapsum, Samala, Kuran, and Tea of Hamil, Sima Masel, Home Mochi, Manzo, Penasas, and that series is in the Samala, and got to be and doing the Korea Cinemazu, no, we are not serious. The that is Yanaki, which is in Samala, Yanaki number to show what and what all the Chagular. Chezan, they take it on a city, Cheta between Mishi, Niki, Milan Gendeko, Yavata, and a taxi, Nani, Korea, Tevan Jawashi, Kalonji, you do Samba, and Imase was in Songa, the Talam de Peshitane, and Manzo, Milan Genjo, but Zucheria, Shidusheri, and Korea, which do some Sene, and Dima Shidusheri. Shidusheri during Namala, that under the implicated, there's a Luri in Namala, that the Jora Sami Sajuchi, and look at security Samala, only draw you. In the draw Sene, and you can see that Josme, even the civic of the Trangi, Jora Trangi, and you can soon that queen there, Lucy Chalina. Cranking Maltone, Tahara, Lucy, now you have a chick. The one Cherry, she is saying in another, Muenetuba, Sensituba, time sitting in the shadow. That teacher is about Manzuki, Shinju in another, and the Pado, Tamil, Symmetry, Choman, children, some of the Chichi during Namara, and a figure of Manzuki, Lantin, the Latin, Franzunian, Shena, and Miss Shilia, Tamil, Symmetry, Missy, Dima Petroation, the Missy Color, the Venezuela, the Sudan, the same Troyer, the Shichi, Troyer, Kagati, Petroy, Kazan Yazana, and so, and they give Chicken, the Venezuela, Chasing Rasso, Korea, and then Semuso, Ducine, Dutachi, Pegamazo, Sandra, Sani, those messages, Measure, and the legation, the Dutachi, that was in Missumore, and Saint Chicken, Saint Zemada, Saint Chicken, Saint Zemada, Saint Tuman, that can say so about those institutions. She do say during crying in the Menom, let's come back. Menom, the now, the crying shame, and someone on the use of it. And the Menom, bombs on the use of it. I'm not wishing you to a color, and a quick Shabazzi was what she can't say where she carried us on. Shunzuki, I'm not since I don't come here, they become Shunzuki, that who were the Kanashin Lucy. That the good day is over. That whom was a part of the Dima race with this one. And said, Dima jail package system, G-race, Konazovi, say about this one. And this is about bomb cheek, bomb, similar was a tiny, bomb gallery was a dason, Yukana, and Tavana Shinji, bomb true was a dashi, those times, bomb river, those cities, Samala, crying gymnast, that is Niku guitars, somebody eating of yours. The deep and that on the Shinju in Yesaraki, 600, that under the city, that is the one use and yogi, and the Shinju to dinner was it. That the Zeman city is something to the Washi, so the Imba, Kazu Shinju. The one that she began working under the Shinju Kasi Yaki and Yodi, no number years, or the no number which is so that years. Says that the Samara Dia, she gave me say, also, Tomo member of society. Is the audition in Europe as person.
¿Están revelados?
I would like to just continue. I don't have much to say, but just follow Geshe Sangpo. First of all, it's very honored to be here because there's so many most respect, standards, which is a very honor to be here, speak few words, and with most respect, this monastery is for the adults also present here. So it's kind of rarely get opportunity to be like this. So it's a very honor. So I think it's I would just somewhat just complimentary what Geshe Sangpo mentions because we are kind of similar to the. So one thing is I really like to why we are doing lots of research with scientific because sometimes people because this to the science where we're working with the science and His Holiness is always encouraging to learn science. So and he also very clarified what kind of topic should talk with the science and His Holiness classified three subjects: Buddhist religion, or Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist science, which is what we are doing is most subject that His Holiness referred is Buddhist science. That's I think one thing. Second thing is also scientists always use their instrument like microscope, telescope, all these things. And we Buddhists also use analytical meditation and single point meditation. Right? That's our kind of technique that we are using. And also I just mentioned that His Holiness visited to the many West countries, and especially he personally to like meet lots of scientists, even like most prominent scientists like Anton Sangpo, which he got Nobel Prize Physics on the 2023. And also you can see out of that and lots of published that's discussion going on the His Holiness and many prominent scientists. So one of the things, I'm sorry, I couldn't find the English version one. Basically, the PowerPoint is just recreating what Geshe Sangpo is speaking, and just connecting and deriving from there. So this is to I'm sorry, but basically saying is this is kind of quite a well-known study. This is did and Emory University where we get study there. So they did about compassion meditation. It's not only compassion meditation, analytical-based compassion meditation. So and the cognitive-based, they call it cognitive-based analytical meditation. So which is about compassion, and they found some results. I'm not going to details. I'm just briefly mentioned they are going on. Yeah. And then you can see they also did you can see there's two persons. They just classify one person as a novice, which is they never did meditation and compassion, and the other one is called expert, which is they did compassion meditations the last 20, 30 years. So they did what's the difference, their brain, something like that. One thing is they just, right now, they don't know what it really means, but they clearly shows in the EEG and the person who are long-term compassion meditators, they have a certain special signal and their brain, especially called the Lama wave, which is very, very fast waves that's going. So that's they found, but they still don't know what that really means. Something like that. So the thing is, one thing is, in scientific community, when we look at the history of recent scientific research, during the maybe 40, 50 years ago, even people are afraid, scientists are afraid talking about the compassion, talking about even mind itself, because they think this is not a scientific subject, science subject. So look at these data figures. Evolution of the study research on the compassion and the loving kindness. And if you look at the early 80s and the 70s, you can find only one or two articles, scientific journals, about compassion, about meditations. If you look at the 2013, and every year, more than 1,000 research articles this is pure scientific article coming from the scientific research. So look at how they have been studied about this inner mind and the matter factors. Yeah. So one thing is we also need to do our own, because we cannot do like always the subject, right? The thing is, when the scientists come to monastery, they study us. It's almost similar, like this is very maybe little disrespectful word, but we are like mouse. We are just like only mouse. They're doing research and they're just using us to almost like instrument. And whatever they interpretations, we just follow them. No, we don't do that. We have to do our own way, much better, because we know what is meditation, what is meditating, and we know better to the subject. So where we don't do to the researcher, not only to the subject. So that's why we started to doing like one thing is you have seen in our monastery mainly studying about the debate. So we would like to debate, during the debate, what happened in the brain, what happened to the physical change, what happened to the emotion as compared to as beginner or 20 years old people practice to the debate. So this is the first time we did about the research during the using EEG. If you look at this is the challenges in him and the dependence and someone else. But the problem is that the EEG usually has to be very calm. But you see, monastery debate is crazy, right? People acting, pushing each other, shouting. It's hard to difficulty to do that. So when we start doing that, we have a lot of challenge. How to do to the use to the EEG without any much discussions. So this is the 2017 or something like that. But right now they make lots of wireless EEG, which is you don't connect to all of them. If you look at this, is too much wireless going on and things like that. So what we found, basically what we found is compared to the beginner to the debaters, experienced debaters, they have one particular the brain regions much more activated, which is related to the attention. So we are believing if you are truly debate and focus on the debate, you need to be lots of focus. You need to be lots of attention, even though you are debating, argumenting. That's to me, is experience is something like sometimes you completely focus on the one particular subject. You just immersing in your mind is clear on that. Even sometimes your friend is shouting, unless you are pushing, you don't hear that. So that's the sort of attention, right? So basically, and during the debate, we can, according to this, research, we can see improvement of the attention. That's the one of the research. Yeah, that's it. So we, out of that, we published a couple articles. If you are interested, you can read some sort of that articles. Yeah. And also that's the justification. So another thing is, I would like to say is This is some of our debate research in Thukdam research. We already published some papers and ongoing project. But those mainly kind of working with Western professors. But now we are completely our monastery monks taking to our own research. We design, study, design, experiment, hypothesis, and how to do procedures. Of course, we have some sort of assistants, professors still needed, but mainly our own ideas, our own, workings. So that's we are really excited to upcoming. This is actually the Emptiness Science Initiative, kind of like that. Initially, professor trained and assistants, but eventually we just designed, we made student group, and each group signed to the one of the studies. Okay. So one of the, what I belong to group is doing research about emptiness. Because, you can see the international, people who are research, and they did many research about the mindfulness meditations, empathy, compassion, loving kindness. But they haven't researched much about the selflessness and the emptiness, especially emptiness. Now this is the kind of sign to starting to the emptiness research in the West scientist community. So I'm sorry, I haven't found to the bad internet. I haven't found to the whole big figure about what we are doing emptiness research. Basically, what we are doing emptiness research is in our system we have a different interpretation. Even though we're talking about the one subject, but our philosophy is different, reason different. We have Siddhartha school and Madhyamaka school. They have a little different version of emptiness. So what we doing is we tend to recruit subjects, and one subject just let them meditate based on the Siddhartha school about emptiness, and other groups we just let them meditate about Madhyamaka based on the interpretation of emptiness. So eventually, we would like to see what kind of different out of the brain signal and out of the physical and out of emotions. That's we are doing. So, and also we have some other subjects kind of like emptiness related to the attachment, and also some other, sleep and memory, all those things. So, that's basically just overview. So lastly, I would like to mention why we are studying the science, especially like compassion, all these things. So what His Holiness says, why we Buddhists need to help for the science? Because we have a lot of our own theory, our own explanation. We are convinced that compassion and empathy, those is really necessary for the ethical, to what we have to the larger community. Even people who, without religions, because they accept the science. So that's why, because some of the people like doing meditations, even if they have, no religions, they still like to do meditation. Because the science says meditation have some beneficials. That's why His Holiness, ultimately, he really wished those compassion and attention, loving kindness, tolerance, all these things getting into the public school. So the students, even though young age, they have to learn how to do meditation, how to do tolerance, how to do compassion to others. That's really for the hopefully source for the world peace. That's his vision. So thank you very much. 그게 나는 인기 주셔. 그게 나는 주요들이 한국에 그냥 사무승교회가 특별대에서 정말 주요시 사오겠네요. 한국에 가서 또 세리가 되어 먹고 제가 가르했어. 군용이 세리 번역도 되어 제 손에 가르했어. 지난 먼저 조직 교육이 방송에 부부스는 마지막 가능성이 중요했어. 저희 교육이 남배수를 대세 숨치기를 이남에 또 먼저 제보 시설이 아니 생리가 제가 남배 생리세야 되면도 남배수나 남주 용선의 인지부지 생리가 되면 먼저 지금 교육에 왔다 먼저 되게 개구지 말해요. 어디지 이슈에. 근데 이거들이야 생리가 속에 그 주제에 대해서 배제하는 거예요. 맞죠? 곰 미세 제공다. 그래서 나중에 제답나야 그래서 배제하는 거예요. 아니 이번에도 군이 상물링은 세리가 얘기하지 몽골은 대화나와 마세 아버지 딱 몽골 세리가 개발된 나니 노베 몽골 세리가 작업동이 대사자는 군주들 해만의 대화 숙성을 연구했어. 그 군주들 제는 자민토리아 같이 군주들 세리가 그들난 쪽에 대 항사의 몽골 그런 쪽이었어. 대자민나라 대접신을 했어. 그 뒷배전 지사샤는 잠닝지대 제공 제조했어. 지난 전행은 다들 보험대 자가지사 보험대 제조대 제공 제조 공부요래. 그러나 시 잠닝지는 공부요래. 그러니까 너 집중만 주고 하면 세리거든 저희는 그렇지. 잠닝지 아니 저도 세리기 처음은 세리요 말했어. 세리기 제가 왜 말하지? 아니 얘네 제가 말로 말해 두고요. 왜냐하면 니는 나는 지금 이제 뒤집게 주는 거야. 로직이야. 세리기 나도는 잠닝지 코시에도 그 somso 간직님한테 두고요 말했어. 지금 이거 조선도와의 뜻상도 노래를 나눠야 세리 감사마산자기 걸어야 니 잠닝지 걸어 제성 동갑보다 등교였어. 그래서 세리기 나눠야 그 유해시 우체되어 있어. 나 생각은 제가 해야 돼 마음을 지어야 했어. 줘야 돼. 내가 또 대충 좀 뭐지? 저는 딱 먼저기 제가 제일 직접 가르치고 있었는 딱 먼저 시간 가르치고 있었는 하나봐도 세리가 주의용 먼저 당시 제사라고 이제 먼저 당시 제사 마시고 있는 드디어를 제제 먼저 때문에 제제 현재와 제 브라도 제시 아주 이 무게를 쳐요. 브라도 거든. 이래 딱 나랑서 나온 게 제가 제제 나랑서 나온 게 이게 내주디 야시기 소소 나온 게 제가 제 소소 나온 게 제제 자리는 제제 그 가다 고아로만 그래야 어체에서 딱 먼저 고수제 아니 딱지 먼저 단다 에모리다 세는 게 시고 고수제 딱 먼저 자산에 단다기만 단다 고수 고치기 의감기 단다가 고백도 돼서 이게 제가 가르치고도 가와사바다 가와 개매버려야 즉 레벨 두어 가르치고도 한직 농행 양행 돈이 두어 가르치고도 딱 대대로 고수 그래 나중에만 단고 따세던 게 상보 세라를 용내 먼저 대대 따세던 가이스는 인지나가 따세던 거야 보다 되게 Geshe 우리만 맞아 그 소리대로 네 지금 가면 저희는 생리 규제도 고려 시켰나요 부도당 부도 먼저 따세던 부고제 나무로요 조금 왔다 갔는데 용매들 랭장에 들어가고 주제 연구들 식단이 갈리죠 주제가 부족시라고 하면 그 따세기 지금 나셔도 되는 거예요 지금 대제제에서 살아요 제가 대리산이 야도 도체 왜 주제 준비되는 서사시 왜 딱 되는 도사시 이내 나한테도 공원적으로 그러자 먼저 남산 공도 내 저자가 모두다 주제에서 먼저 지금 가르쳐서는 제가 먼저 따세가야 뭐 이제 따세 나와 제가 되게 봐 이내 딱 주제에서 공원체가 지금 되게나 어디 딱 제조 찍어야 근데 레벨 G 간다 티거죠 레벨 G 거죠 빅데이터 내가 망치야 가와서는 여기만 소리야 그래서 딱이 가르는 경우에서 이래서 받는 거예요 이 또한 저렇게 이래서 이야기 도구에 하나가 오직 갑자기 오직 야자자자 지금 맞다 당시 진이 또 먹고 보니나 아니 즉 잡아야 돼야라고 당시 농소 대대 거라 도야 되셔야 돼 근데 다 somso라고 딱 근데 나도 이 계시주의 가르쳐서는 니 숨지고요. 만들면 나다지나 가르치고 그래서는 대머리에 간다 독감이나 라시에 그래서 기기와 만들이 로봇이기를 마도 당시 머리 지니 라시에 생각해 만들 저것도야 리사시아니나 호랭이 생각해 되다가 고절이 로봇이 나다 이 머리 가르치고 그래서는 아무도랑 상로당 소스랑 안 붙은 거지 고도고요 딱 거의 없어 딱 어떤 혼자 개들다 지기를 마도 지금 당시 지난해 방문소에서 내내 당시 집에 유행 시국 제가 규제 배제가 하면 저거 전에 제가 대시 또 말하고 왕기 상무 당시 소설 왕기 신주 나오는 게 신주해야 돼 그냥 그 다양한 소개를 나와서 그게 실시하는 다시 리사비가 저도 제일 솔직히 그거는 과연 그거 봐도 사좀 템플로 내 옵션에 봐봐요. 그게 교육 지원 거래. 아주 지도하는 아무 생각이 나서 뒤에 가서 댄스 가서는 개개인 가르치 이면 공개 내가 되면도 로켓 지금 봐야 돼요 말고. 나 정말 전에 내가 로켓 버스 차에 그이가는 그 내가 로좀 지겨요. 뭐 테니스 해야 되고 그게 넣어야 되는 거. 다만 소설 지어야 되고. 나 소설 지어야 돼. 네 로봇 이런 제와. 나 로봇 내 제야 되고 두야. 어떻게 더 지금 요즘 당연히 수시한되고. 나 내가 나도 당연히 신주 사원이 나도가 가르칠 때에서는 지금 독립고 신주 지어야 돼. 능력도 당연히 독립고 신주 지어야 되니까 당연히 새 로봇 신주 진행하는 요만해. 딱 나라도 당연히 지금 독립 신주 지어야 되지. 사실은 먼저 처음에 내가 시작하잖아. 생전에도 우리 국민이 봅니다. 오늘 우리 가고 예과를 레벨하는 개발도 또 그런 나라는 아래 나 굉장히 제가 시키면도 되게 제가 가서를 되게 제가 되게 보람을 내가 그래 세리스야 그게 즉 사실은 동조적 위험하다. 그 그림지겠어. 노점 지기 나다비 나한테 넣을 속에 아니 되게 약해 가야 달래 되는 거죠. 되게가 되게 수비가 있어. 다만 내가 먼저 가르치기 위해서는 세리스도 제가 군대에 가면 위에 가르쳤으나 아주 남의 중나라도 장민지가 상주를 연대해서 수시에요 되지 그래서 망조에 가서 문제는 가르치 잡고요. 다음번에 처음에 얘기가 저도 가르치 잡고 그랬을 때 세력이 감감된 대저 당시에 장민지가 아니지 수화가 아니지 정말로 시신이 연대해서 세력이 돈에 땡큐가이나 다만 처음에 얘기해야 되는 게 됐어. 아니 나도 지금 나 미리 다통을 좋아해요. 나한테 요즘 나도 얘기해 줘야 우리 제주인의 지금 장님제가 전시시대에서 내야 정도이나 장님 시대가 굉장히요. 근데 그 공시에도 일단도 어떻게 보입니까?
Now it's time for Q&A session, and thank you very much for both the presenters for your wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. And again, I'm going to have this one also to see the George and George and 1 hour for QA, we will add half an hour more because it's very interesting. And especially for that, I want to add something. All the listeners, yes. First, we would like to offer the chances for the one side. Then, if we have time, then I'll be glad to get the opportunity. Oh, yes, please start.
Okay, thank you so much, and especially thanks goes to two of the presenters. I have two questions, both of them presenters. The first question is from our Geshe, who is the presenter firstly. Can I know, is there any kind of relationship between that Thukdam or dream yoga with if there is one monk who has passed away, so then we know, I think there's a Thukdam is the literary meaning of the samadhi, concentration. So is that concentration or that samadhi, if there is remain in that body after the death of one monk, that is the hard practice of the meditation, that is, I think, that Thukdam. So after the death, that monk has to remain that consciousness or that samadhi in that body. That's my first question. And the second question is for other Geshe. Especially we know that this Holiness idea, he says we have to bring this Buddhism towards the science, because nowadays we know the Western scholars also doing so many researches regarding this Buddhism, especially in Tibetan side, because not only in Tibetan side, in other sides also, they are doing so many researches because they want to know what is the deepest level in this Buddhism. So, can I know, we normally know this Buddhism is very highest level between, when we are going to the comparison with the modern science, the Buddhism is in very high level, that is according to our view. So, through this modern science, you identify this Thukdam or Greek yoga can, through the modern science, identify every status of the mind, because the mind is very highest level among the phenomena. So, through this modern science, do you identify the every status of the mind?
Yes, 더문이 두번 드시죠. 아니 고난이 주원나의 칼리셨으나 다다 지금은 이쪽 두덩이 거기 제가 제 배나 이 이제 그들이 내가 지난 두덩 쉬어야지 그게 생 지금 땡인지 그다 지금 그냥가셔야 되니까 배우시기 사는 교사에 아니 뭔가 조사를 제야 아니 생이 되게 가서 보면 메이크업을 통해서 지금 지원 문제 제시하기야 아니 두덤수의 내가 가서 단도에 ing인지 그게 지금 저하고 같이 공기 지금 역도야 슈디 요바디 문제 부여를 이거를 용서세 지금 한 지원 이번에 가게가 단단 좀 진리기 다 신주 단단에 나중에 문제 부여를 지난 넘버에 세리가 누가 있나요? 나는 수수비 가지고 오는 세리나 아니면 지금 생각나 저도 이한테 텍사로 세 통보를 드리기 시작하기로 내가 그저 제이 이바디 아니 세리기 돈에 네 신이 변화 사실 비난 내줘나 아니 지금 툭담다 그저 돈에 아니 지금 남아시고 세리야디 고 제게 노선도 지금 싸워지기에 도야 제도기를 도요 그래서 어디지가 되죠. Thank you, Venerable, for this wonderful question. And regarding to the questions asking if there is a relation between dream yoga and Thukdam cases, as I said before, both of these are tantric practices, and also both of these are very much utilization of the subtle consciousness into a meditative state. So therefore, when someone actually able to use their dreams, sleep, and the subtle consciousness into their meditative state, and then the individual, the practitioner, surely gain skills of staying in Thukdam state. So therefore, there is a clear connection, clear link with the Thukdam and the dream yoga practice. And beside that, when the practitioner is in the Thukdam state, have we been able to identify that the practitioner is still in that kind of samadhi state, in the conscious state? From the scientific kind of the investigation, it is very hard to draw conclusion at this moment, because what we have observed through the scientific exploration is the unique sort of physical decomposition originated the other ordinary people's decomposition process, and by observing this kind of decomposition process, which is very unique, based on that we can make some kind of inferences, logical sort of reason why these are happening. There has to have some other factors involved to be able to stay in that kind of freshness of the body. So that could be an indication that the practitioner is still in the kind of samadhi state. And in principle, from the spiritual kind of perspective, from the philosophical kind of perspective, yes, the practitioner is still in the meditative state. He has not left the party yet. But from the scientific kind of, the investigation, I think it is still too early to make a conclusion. And yes, and then the second question, you are very right. We have quite advanced understanding in consciousness, and particularly the mechanisms of the mind and different technology of mental sort of activities. I think compared to science, we are very much advanced. It is a fact. I think scientists, of course, they have progressed so much in terms of understanding physical reality, physical realms, and their kind of secret and certain mechanisms and everything. But when it comes to the consciousness, the mechanisms and what kind of consciousness involved in certain kind of the physical well-beingness and mental well-beingness and all these things, I think we are far much rich in terms of the practice as well. But through this kind of as you said, I would say, as you said, through this kind of the investigation of the Thukdam and dream yoga, and I am expecting in the future there will be more better understanding of consciousness, because these are the most subtle sort of the consciousness which has not been very much investigated in the scientific kind of domain, and it is growing and it is kind of continuously to be grown in the future, and through that way I am very hopeful to make some kind of better understanding in respect to defining what consciousness and their rules and their applications in life and of well-being and so on and so forth. And but I think consciousness itself is a very kind of itself is a kind of having a very different perspectives from different kind of scientists as well as from kind of philosophers, and because of that, as of now, we don't have a unanimous kind of the consensus or the interpretation of the definition of the consciousness. And many scientists are trying to understand consciousness, the phenomena from the different kind of species and their skills and their capacities and their kind of the brain mechanisms and so on and so forth. They are attempting to understand consciousness from different kind of dimension, and through all this kind of collaboration, I am expecting and hopeful in the future we will have a more kind of complete understanding of consciousness and yeah. 여기 주어지기 레드리아 네 반드시월이 간사리오 레스스만 왜냐면 좀 지난 투동이 거를 제와이를 요구했습니다. 비니 거를 제와십신 비교되어 자기가 레스 까니가 디 직차에서 냐네 나서 지금은 나니나 근데 아직 가슴 처음에 정보가 가다 요새가 도전하고 제거가 되게 이미 유사하다 아니 제가 대대 비교되어 자기가 다 Thukdam गिरने का भैया अने अन्ना शेपर दूस अने न्याशा मारे तंदु बिचने ने यो मारे से ने सेरी की तसु की न्याशी की थोने ने यो रे से तंदु जेजे शेवरी महीना अन सेरी की शामु करने केजे शेवरी महीना ती तंदु जुम क्या मातु वेगी देना चाहिए सेरी नाली तसु थोने केजे शेवरी महीना अने नंबे की न्यामे ना तजु बिच थोने अने केजे शेवरी महीना 대 유효가지야 동시에 잠시 유효가지야 아니 문제 유효가です다 아니 디기톤에 단단한조 지원이가 되게야 세리 발이야 지금 남식이 꼴이야 아니 지금 제시 사와가 보도 사와지리에 지금 남주기 나오나 아니 직선감다 노종다 아니 지금 로주주세나 공주민의 아니 단원도 좀 제리 세리를 유효발에 양도시고 이만 되기 때문에 아니 만주의 세리를 남아시고 대한 제시 사와를 두어야지 아니 두요 말에서 디테일 유서가나 만한수기 신주 세리에 두주지 대만 세리 이탈고 나온다 종류 매워시 남시 차사지 하는데 이게 송자 뭔가 디 켄체네 아니 프랑스로 남시비기 보도 사바지 때 두야기 만족이 내와시고 있어요. 가가 신치기 지난 남시세대야기 세리기 제베게 남네 아니 지기 내라우지 제가 제도에서 말해라 남시 구나기 아니 지 보완에 나기 전에 세리바나 회수다 어두바나 회수이야 아니 제시 만다고 보고 예되고 차이되기 요래 그러나 사실은 세리바 망부치기 아니 지 생제의 리탐을 저기 남바시에게 내가 그때 내가 빠르게 만족이 남시 보완에 나 그때도 팀제기 때문에 아니 지금 생제기 남시 거래야 아니 신주시되게 망부지요래 간다 아니 말하죠 냠매의 손제기 또는 마음과 남바시에가 세대디 아니 차 상황에 갖고 와서 맞지 디기 아니 지금 류기 대단하다 아니 지금 생기 대단하다 아니 그게 모여기 고주에 가리다 배주기가 같은 제일 거래야 세도 자신을 도와야기 한 도시에 만족을 나와주기 위해서
Okay. Yeah. Just shortly, basically, I agree with what Geshe mentions. When you are talking about can science identify to the mind and nirvana, all those things, surely not. They cannot be talking about the beyond the physical, right? They cannot talk beyond the rupa. The mind, the mana is not their subject. But they are trying to, at least they are trying to, which is we have to encourage to them. But part of the reason is, I think that's the secondary question. First question is how can we maintain to the Buddhism in future generations? I think it's in Tibetan community and the young, the school who educate to the West educations. They usually, Buddhism is maybe old age. It's just live. So we need to, no, this is not old age. They have so many subjects relevant to the scientific study. So we at least to show to them, let them interest. We had to, try to bring their attention toward the Buddhism study first, and then try to practice. That's our job. We have to maintain to the Buddhism in generation to generation. So I think it's whether to the science can define to all these debate subjects. That is a secondary question. At least scientists should know they have some subject that can to analyze it. They have some ideas that can be discussed within the scientific community, within the education, within the education expertise can talk about that. That's the two things happen. In terms of results. And our young generation think about backward. This is not old age. But we have a valuable culture and valuable some sort of traditions. We should have preserved sort of that. I think that's just secondary. The land of the secondary to suggest that the German tradition to the several of us. It's when you are secondary to Harvard tradition to my son tradition to also suggest each other. I'm not going to get what the garrison. I'm sure they come to Yama. Zingo was. Zingo not to be not so much of the Tonayo was over. Tonayo was there and gave them knowledge. I can take example. I'm sure that 11 years, some of the yeah, Mother, which one to be getting. 생각이 대화면에 성공도 근데 말이다 생각도 속에 도나치기에 되게 장기였어. 다들 맞을 내가 가능해서 생각보다 쉽게 돼서 지금 남배셔야 도나이 요소야지. 아니 되네 가능하게 지금 남배셔야 그때 용내 다동네에서는 맞을 미도 지금 남배셔야 미도 아니 보서야. 아버지 시행이 돼 나와라. 남배셔야 이제 더 많이 먹고 제가 세상에 오니까 있으니까 로정 실세기 즉 대나로 비선주의 저기 제시 마모도 사고 비소도 그에 개천으로 제가 들려줬습니다.
Okay, I have two questions from my Thai colleague. The first one is, how does the practice of Thukdam relate to liberation from suffering and the process of rebirth in Buddhism? Okay, that's the first one. The second one is, how does lucid dreaming work with the very subtle subconscious mind, and how does it work with the subconscious mind?
lucid dreaming?
How does lucid dreaming work with the very subtle mind?
Thank you, for this. Seperti diri saya, bahkan saya Thukdam juga ini kebelas lah. Di ini dunia ini juga apa dan jawab kami oleh. Ini jawab siapa di ini tidak jadi jawab kami oleh. Ondisi kuat. Anda jawab ini boleh karet sama. Ane tahu minum sedia di ane siapa cuma sih desi cakap oleh. Ondisi.
당배 밀럼 세야 돼. 만들 전에 상관나는 밀럼 세면 세야 돼. 밀럼 세면 돼.
So, thank you so much for this wonderful question. It is quite thought-provoking kind of, the inquiry, and I really appreciate raising this question. And when someone actually stays in Thukdam, that is indications of spiritual kind of progression. And when someone gains skills to overcome the most fearful thing that one could face for ordinary people, and without being distracted or without being scared by these most fearful kind of the challenge that ordinary people face in their lifetime, which is the death. So that is spiritually, it is very much sort of advanced and gaining deep sort of skills of overcoming the afflictive disturbances, inner fears, and all these things. Therefore, it surely has connection with the liberation. I will not say when somebody is staying in Thukdam, he has a liberated, but it has a definitely connection with the liberation, and that's the answer to the first question. That's the first question. And then the second question, lucid spiritual, philosophical kind of understanding is just maybe it is equivalent or not. I'm not very sure. We recognize the dream as a dream. Usually, usually these kind of practices. But anyway, the dream itself is not the surface one. It is compared to awake state. Because, for example, our sensual consciousness are very much dependent on their physical faculty, modality, and because of that, they are more grosser than the mental consciousness, which is independent of physical faculty. And on top of that, when someone is in the sleep state, all the gross level of the consciousness are not, the sensory modalities are completely, shut down, and not processing, not kind of activating as much as in the sleep state, as much as in the awake state. Therefore, there are less distractions and more kind of focus. And when the mind is very much channelized in a focus, and that means all the energies are converged into a one kind of unity, one kind of focus, and because of that, there is a less distractions or the vibrations of the wind energy that is being served as a mounting basis of this kind of unity consciousness. And maybe maybe it's not the 지금 투덤을 주변에 타바든 제어카리 요레스디에 줘봐 타바든 제어카리 요레스디에 지나니 지금 냠메바치 투덤을 주변에 가다스 말한소 미디어지 선로 나다는 거에 대해서 말한소 지가 치슈디 카레스 상관은 치와이스 치와이는 프랑스로 가서 지가 시행하는 장면으로와 치에 신앙 사실이 잘 보여요. 팀제기 치와들이나 동네 남자 가야 매봐. 아니 지금 세지 도스타 아니 수수기 원유 지금 원세는 수수를 위해 돈에 아니 지가기 샤와도 나서봐. 되게 세지는 데에 있는 것이 되게 상가 되게 따로 나서는 가르치기 위해서 상가다. 그 냠내기 차례 똑똑히 수수를 위해기 아니 대가로 나서 리차를 위해서 대대님의 이 성상 디기 내가 타고 요레스니 주고요 말할 때 타고나 저와시고 요레버시 도시니 사리요 레스 이제 아니 이바데 카레스 상마라 아니 미남 스바디 센처모 카레스니 사리 요레스에 저기 내는데 미남 스바디 처음에 나오는 책 사실 비슷하게 요레스 그래서 된적 괜찮네 처음에 문제 되기요 레스 페라차 안데레스니 상마라 말한소 아니 온수디 아니 온벽이 시바도 좋지 그때 오고 수세바 때 고기가 송사 이기는 것에가 도라이바이나 아니 고 라마샤데기요 레스 때기 전에 미베션에 먹으면서 유기 전에 알아채고 좋으니까 어디 전에지 차데기요 레스 미베차를 가르에서 상관나 아니 니기 내가블 셀라바 나미기 교칭이 마치에 자와치기 매번이가 송사 셀르마 손고 지기다 내자는 손고 아니 남시 라바드 때문이나 하는 때마다 야바이 기리스 대제기 전에 차와레스네 차와세 제치나 설명을 시작해요.1:8 as a response to the question. With response to the first question, if we just think about all the miseries or the suffering that we experience in our day-to-day life, mostly these are happening just because of too much sort of disturbances or kind of conceptual fluctuations on the very gross levels of human consciousness. And due to not due to not being able to really stabilize these kind of mental fluctuations, positive elaborations. We do experience so many types of kind of the subjects and miseries. And in the practicing kind of the process, if someone really try to dissolve this kind of conceptual gross levels into a more sort of subtle process, and then through that way, the practitioner can stay more in kind of peaceful and restful and calmness, and through that, that's the only way to be able to stay in that kind of the specified sort of status, and to be able to really utilize these subtlest one at the time of the death. One has to have lots of training while the practitioner was alive. Otherwise, it is almost impossible, and it's very difficult and very challenging. And on top of that, and when we use the subtle kind of consciousness into a meditative state, it is more effective because there is a less kind of distractions, and the subtle mind itself is kind of a more sort of energetic in terms of the less conceptual fluctuations. And there is one kind of narration or the incident, a sort of army fell off from the airplane, and then at that time the soldier was very much extremely kind of fluctuating, going through lots of disturbances, and at that state, the people surrounding him tried to ask what was to happen, what was at what time the flight incident happened, and how we fell off the flight, and asked them, but he couldn't answer anything. Then what the people who were looking after him did was that they gave us some kind of the pills to let the victim to fall in sleep, and through that way, when the victim was falling in sleep, it was not the subtlest one, but after kind of the reducing the mental fluctuation, a little bit kind of stabilizing, and at that time, when they asked the question, the victim was more kind of able to respond how the incident happened and so on and so forth.
So, so, yes, I want to add something for your question, the first question. So, how it is related with that nirvana is in the tantric system, actually, we consider the actual Thukdam. If that practitioner has gained the actual Thukdam, then within few hours, or within few days, or within 1 month, that person can attain the highest form of enlightenment. That is the Vajrayana enlightenment. That means that person can obtain the nirvana within a very short time. Sometimes for a person, some persons within few hours. For some person, within few days. Some person within 1 month and so on. Within a very short time, if that Thukdam is a real Thukdam, then it can get the nirvana within a very short time. That is the main reason why we in our Tibetan society, we consider, we respect too much towards those practitioners after their death. When they were alive, we don't know who practiced what. But after their death, Thukdam reveals as a result. So that's the main reason why we pay our most respect towards those practitioners. Within their life, or within their life, we don't know who's practicing what and what, right? Okay, that's the short answer. And okay, sorry, the next question will be Thank you, this venerable, for giving us a wonderful lecture. My question is related to dream yoga. So I have watched one Western movie. The name is Inception. So according to that movie, few people can connect into one dream, and they can go step by step until seven. One dream to second dream, like that. So my question is there any possibility to connect few people to the same dream? Yes, through the dream yoga. And is there any possibility to change others' mind or thoughts using this method? Thank you.
그럼 지금대로 단단한 뉴스 논의 시작이 있습니다. 논의 따위는 미 뭐 이런 점도 다야. 이런 점도 다야. 이런 지거다야. 나는 이런 게 나로도야 이런 다야. 나는 내 미션거든 이런 게 두어다야. 아니 되게 때문에 저도 다음주 단대 가서 이런 게 내줘도 아니 되게 지금 왜 I think it's just so one of the ideas is the dream yoga. It's not the goal. The dream yoga is not controlling to the other's dream or trying to connect to the other's dream. That's the initiative of the tantric practice, which is trying to during the dream your mind is more subtle than the waker. So, according to our philosophy, if you think about the same subject, very gross mind or subtle mind. So compared to those, subtle mind is much more powerful. So that's why we are using dream to practice any kind of like impermanent or mindfulness. So basically using dream or subtle minds to meditating or to dream, whatever your daily practice, which is to make it more powerful. That is the goal. So not trying to go to the control to the other mind or showing to mystical things, not that goals. But it's maybe possible to people, there's so many, what you call the mysterious things happen, right? If you are totally controlled to the, we sometimes call the arahata or Master. They have a lot of story in the Masitas. They're doing so many mystical things, which is not, maybe that's possible, but that's the man, not man goal or not procedure. 되게 남들 들으시고 먼저 이런 기능을 지어야 된다. 또 지금 이 시간에 이런 당시 지어야 된다. 그렇게 말했어. 상황이 중국 전에 제일이나 직시가 나보다 시간 장면 직시가 장면이 소수의 명예 공략이나 다른 조회나 누가체가 어떻게 그랬어. 세상 이런 기능을 계속 강제 시간 장면 뒤편에 명예 제외나 즉 명예 누가체가 대통령이 제거했어. 이게 가사를 쓴 거야. 대대 이것이 그러니까 주도 대표가 제 소소스의 선임의 제 가사 시행만 보면 그대와 대대 이것이 그랬어. 이네 저기 사회의 동시는 뭐라 이렇게 말했어.
I want to share, some points regarding to the as a response to this question. Recently, I have had, the audiences with one of the greatest master from Kagyu tradition, tradition. We were having discussions about the dream yoga itself and its implication. And what he really shared to me was that, back in time there was a practitioner, dream yoga, serious dream yoga practitioner, and he has gained very advanced sort of dream yoga practices, and then some of his attendants wanted to test his skills, and the way how they did test the practitioner skills was that when practitioner was sleeping in a room and locked outside, and in the night, the practitioner, there is no way to come out of the room. He's locked inside, and then in the next room they place a book and opened, and before the practitioner goes to bed, they ask, you must come next room in your dream, living with your dream body out of your physical body, and try to read the open kind of the paragraph in the book that is left in the next room. And tomorrow morning, when the attendants open the door and ask the question, what was the first paragraph of that page on that book, and then the practitioner exactly read the paragraph. So that is some kind of anecdotal kind of incidences that happened in the past. And in addition to that, he also raised one big concern with respect to this kind of research. What he said is, if we demonstrate this kind of the skills through the scientific sort of approach, then some secret agents may have some kind of negative suspicion, may become more cautious about that practitioner, because he may steal the confidential documents in his sleep, in his dream, because he has the access to leave out of the body and do the observation without being aware by the surrounding people. And he was saying that we should take this into our consideration. Otherwise, it could lead to some kind of negative outcome or some kind of negative impression or consequences to the practitioners. And what he was saying is that it is completely possible to gain that kind of status. So that is something what I wanted to share. And 단다 거기 연대 단계에 단계에 대시에 지급할 수 있습니다. 단다 먼저 또는 가서 보다 밀런 연주님 시간을 통해 가서 이제 대수를 주시는 도시의 제자 수신에 아니 염식이 이제 가로 만드는 나다니까 먼저 주도지 주시는 대시에 그래서 아까들이 아니 대수를 주시는 소매를 양게만 프랑스 개인 지도를 개인이 아니 밀런 민족이 잘 통하고 싶으신 이제 아니 밀런 비비도 통하네 아니 페나사나 개인 프랑스 자식 나스임 아니 기주 디가 지 개인 밀런 민족이 통과해야 아니 지 소다시에 아니 수로로 먼저 이렇게 샤신과 되게 배제지 같이 샤신 배제지 아니 인생 한국이 아니 개인처럼 대비는 민원으로 산행에 따기가 그래서 쭉 가르치기 위해 해서요 말이다. 그 상관은 아니 산이 아니 고시에 개인 컨디션에 상관 개인 인생 한국이 따라 도시는 막 인데레스네 가면 되게 아니 주총송 데레스토나도 나 대도 제일 먼저 세력이 통해 이렇게 말해 지금 로지를 통해 정신을 인수시 차되기 위해 이 마인에게 테스트를 비슷하게 먼저 양식 되어야 양식 센서 제외하기 아니 인수시 송나도 다 가르에서 상관은 아니 계시 먼저 이제 지 세력이 신주의 남의 존재를 그바이면은 아니 지금 사회의 그 선용기 내가 지금 뭐 보셔봐 아니 지금 그쪽이 굉장히 멤버들 독선식으로 하고 있어. 가르쳐서 그 사람이 이제 뭐 무시지 냐샤이데 그 사람이 이제 도저히 그 이런 거로 것이 기제 디레시 그 정말 그렇게 딱 말한 소리 그런다 디레시 선물에 좀 위험한데 이말 등산 미는 소식이 지금 또 지금 이제 아니 독서를 뭐 위험한 송산 그냥 도서야 먼저 도서 제거해야 하는 삼시 제거해야 되겠어요. 굉장히 가르치고 있어요.
दादा वास्ते चाहिए रो मतलब किताब से चाहिए रो बस मतलब किताब से तेरे तो जान उन्हीं के मतलब नाम से तेरे मतलब को देना है तब अच्छी हम चीज ढूंढ जाए ना 10선 23시가 초라치예요 말이죠. 13이나 남아서 다른 주님이 기대드려야 돼요. 그게 수업들이 있어요.
So I would like to just tell that what the Geshe mentioned, one of the goals of the dream yoga is even you are sleeping, not wasting time, because if you are truly practitioner, you have to practice 24 hours. So even you can, reciting all these your rituals can do in drawing gym. So another one is mentioned as what I also like to say is there's a Tibetan great scholar, he composes so many texts. So if you look at the time he could read all these things, there's no way cannot read all these texts. But he collected so many to the quotes of the things. So the other people believing or quite relevant or quite verifying documentary says before he going to sleep, always keep the books there. So people believing they have kind of like a story. He's reading during the dream or dream yoga. And then also another instance, we know one of the Geshes who can predict mostly the questions when exams coming, which is very useful, but it's only during
มีสองประเด็นนะครับประเด็นแรกเรื่องต่างๆพอดีประสบการณ์อาจจะเชื่อมโยงกับการฝึกเรื่องของความฝันที่ว่าคือในเมืองไทยเวลาที่ผู้ที่กำลังใกล้จะเสียชีวิตเนี่ยมักจะมีขนบธรรมเนียมประเพณีเช่นการขอขมาพระรัตนตรัยก็คือคนไทยเนี่ยมีพระรัตนตรัยที่โดยพื้นฐานอยู่แล้วเวลาใกล้จะเสียชีวิตเนี่ยผู้หลักผู้ใหญ่ก็จะมีพิธีการเช่นเอาดอกไม้ธูปเทียนมาให้ผู้ที่กำลังจะเสียชีวิตเนี่ยได้ทำพิธีขอขมาพระรัตนตรัยแล้วก็จะมีการนำภาวนาให้ผู้ที่กำลังจะเสียชีวิตเนี่ยได้นึกถึงคุณงามความดีของตนแล้วนึกถึงจะไปถึงขั้นที่ว่าไม่อธิษฐานเกิดก็คือขอให้ปล่อยละวางความยึดติดถือมั่นในทรัพย์สินเงินทองคนรักความโกรธแค้นต่างๆเพื่อที่จะไปเกิดใหม่ในยุคพระศรีอานก็ดีหรือนิพพานก็ดีก็คือให้ละวางแบบนั้นก็จะเป็นคติที่คนไทยได้ถ่ายทอดกันมาอันนี้ก็เป็นแนวทางหนึ่งในเรื่องของการเสียชีวิตหรือการตายในพุทธศาสนาแบบไทยๆที่จะชวนให้บุคคลเนี่ยกลับมาและนึกถึงคุณงามความดีก่อนที่จะเสียชีวิตก็จะเป็นสภาวะของจิตเป็นกุศลเลยนึกถึงเรื่องของการฝึกความฝันซึ่งเรื่องการฝึกความฝันเนี่ยมันเป็นในฝั่งของบ้านในเมืองไทยไม่ได้มีกระบวนการวิธีการแบบนี้ที่จะมาฝึกแต่ว่าครูบาอาจารย์ที่สอนปฏิบัติสมถะวิปัสสนาก็มาจะพูดถึงเรื่องของความฝันหรือว่าการปฏิบัติที่ไปเกี่ยวข้องกับความฝันอยู่เสมอแต่ไม่มีระบบเท่าที่มีประเด็นที่สองก็คือว่าในการศึกษาเรื่องของทุกดำเนี่ยมีการในการศึกษาเนี่ยมีการดูอะไรกันนะมีการศึกษาเหตุปัจจัยแวดล้อมด้วยหรือเปล่าเช่นอาหารของผู้ที่เราไปศึกษาอาหารที่ท่านกินแล้วก็อากาศในสิ่งแวดล้อมที่ทำให้ร่างกายเนี่ยไม่เน่าเปื่อยได้โดยง่ายเพราะว่าอย่างในเมืองไทยที่เป็นเมืองร้อนเนี่ย ก็โดยปกติก็จะเสื่อมสลายร่างกายก็เสื่อมสลายง่ายอยู่แล้วแต่ก็มีบางคนที่อาจจะไม่ใช่พระเองเนี่ยก็มีสภาวะที่ร่างกายไม่เน่าเปื่อยเช่นอาจจะเป็นผู้ที่ทานผักเป็นหลักไม่ทานเนื้อสัตว์อย่างนี้เป็นต้นหรือว่าในช่วงวันปลายของชีวิตผู้สูงวัยอายุมากๆเนี่ยบริโภคอาหารน้อยมากเพราะฉะนั้นร่างกายก็มักจะไม่ค่อยเน่าเปื่อยเป็นต้น
This is the last question. Sorry, we have to stop because of the time. We gave only
Okay, so in Thailand, there's a want to share that there's a culture of people on their death or during their deathbed or when they just died. There's a culture where we bring the people to pay respect and purify themselves to the triple gems by asking them to say their prayers, confess their misdeeds, think about the positivities that they've done in their life and let it go, or even make aspirations to be reborn in the realm of Major Buddha or something like that, which is, I think it's a culture that has been embedded in Thai culture, and it seems to relate to the process of dying that has been talked about in the Tibetan tradition. But in terms of the practice of dream yoga, there's not much systematic teachings on working with the dream, but there are specific teachers who have been teaching some practices related to dreams, but on a personal level to their disciples, and that has been known in Thailand, but it's not systematically passed on into like a tradition. And in terms of Thukdam, you want to ask whether the conditions of living that is surrounding the actual person who has gone through the process of dying has been incorporated into the experiential, into the experiment, in terms of the weather conditions, the food they eat, the way that they will be preserving the body, because in Thailand it's a hot weather, so it has maybe a little bit different conditions. But even though that, in Thailand itself, there's also been many cases of people who have died and their body was not decaying, even though they're not known to be a practitioner, or sometimes they're very, very old people, kind old people who are not Buddhist practitioners, but their body remained for a very long time after death. And many masters have also shown that the not decaying qualities of the body as well. So that's what he wanted to share a little bit.
The Quran is one of the things Penasasana begin planning and the Quran so Penasasana Nichi and Chungrosi Kaptelia and the Six and the Chungali Tajik Sujotelia and the Kijogi Penasasana and the Madriana Sota and the Sikungi Pemasana so that in James and Migi and in the Koyu in Amanda that the Gates at the Lemon which you are less. And that deep is in so and Pujin and they created the solution service. And in the Milan Benjo and Jerry Tone, China Shunzen, Tinzushi Tone, Milan Benjo, Komlu Komtanki, and it Thukdam, Menhada, the Zuchedi, China, Yoma Est. Yoma Iba Inaya, Yamemba, and Kashi Chiki, and Suzuki, and Chiki, Kegi Tone, and Mayunchi to Sine. China today, you have a Mabus Chadi list. And to look at JV, and Kajadi, Tandanzo, Thukdam Shu, and Kuyuki, Sajun, and then Zuli, Steak, and the Zula, Duji, Medi, and the Kanzo, the Dai Shoyo in the Kandecha, and in China, Kanzo, Thukdam, China Juchu, Yamshin, Manang, Yanchi 기분 담바 공부 조리 거리야 이제 우리 공부 마루네 데네티데 주는 것들이 막 무슨 거예요. 디갱이 맨 캐릭터스 맨더스타 그런 그런 소스. then reduce the 사주를 So to answer the question with regard to the consideration of the environmental kind of parameter some factors with respect to the Thukdam cases. Two cases of Thukdam that happened in here was maybe like at the hottest season of the year. Yeah, March or something like that. So the hottest season. So these kind of weather is supposed to affect, speed up conversation for ordinary people, But even at that time, the bodies remain quite long, days in a kind of refreshed state. And on top of that, the main decision, the main kind of, indicator sort of sign whether individual is in Thukdam or not is not based on just observing some kind of, unique decomposition kind of, the process. Most importantly, what we do is we ask, actually we have been guided by this honest Lama, advised by this honest Lama. Some people may stay in that kind of, refreshness state of body even after the death for several days or even a week or something like that. But that is not something surprising, that's not something astonishing. But the most important thing what we really need to assess is the checking or the investigating the practitioner's background. Whether he was a serious practitioner or not, what kind of a practice he has been carrying on since what time, and how much days, how much practice does he do in the daytime when he was alive. And if he is a very serious practitioner, on top of that, if there is some kind of sign mysterious sort of decomposition process, then based on that, we can all make a kind of a conclusive sort of judgment as in saying that there are Thukdam state or something like that.
기자님이 숨쉴 때 내가 너무 슬프지. 그다음에 투자를 볼 때, 그랬다 나와서 저는 세상에 쓰여져서 떼서 이슈를 나도 저희 지금도 지금도 빨리 중요한 여자 중이나 그리고 중이 중, 여자 중이 중, 또 지난 지금 볼 때, 아이는 상황을 보면 지금 시차워지지. 시험만 라방이나 통역을 하다 아니 중앙 기분들이 상하시는 신들이 그다음에 여자를 구조시는 세우는 거죠. 그러니까 내가 또 요즘 시내라고 해야 시험을 처음 우리가 합치 잡았다는 것을 좋겠지만 또 우리 치료를 또 시험을 처음 우리가 시내라고 또 그래서 시험을 처음 찍기 유기니로 뭐만 우리가 시험을 처음 찍기 지난 리고야 시험을 처음 찍기 시험을 라고도 내가 지난 시험을 라고야 시험 몸이 상하게 됐어요. 시험을 처음에만 그 시험이 것처럼 지금 바로 이 시험을 처음에 유기니로 리고 있는 그래서 리고야 찍다. 리고 있는 것도 시내가 돼야 양은 시내다 이렇게 통합니다. 그래서 남녀가 통해서 지금 리고가 있는 시내가 되는 지금 처음 메시지 유통이 제주에 있는 고급 약속이 좋아요. 그래서 늘 이야기해서 또 마시고 오는 내가 무슨 내가 있는 이 이걸 메시지 유지하는 유기로 말을 하고 그래서 저도 내가 주신 동의에 관해서는 시내가 되는 시험 참여 유리고 제가 시험을 일단 부담스러워. 내가 어떤 기대 시간에 내가 이런 샤스 문제들이 있습니다. 이런 시험을 쓰는 우리 시험 처음에 또 봐도 내가 약간 내줘야지. 시험 처음에 유리가 대적하는 거에 대적하는 게 되어지는 부담스럽다고 하는데 이 시험 처음에 시간을 선생님 어떤 하는데 우리 시간 내에
단지 이 지원되기 랜디 게 군들이 단단하고 연식이 내자들이 늘그셔 쉬어리 또 이게 치료기 빠들이 되는 항상 개요 말했어 또 내가 이 결정을 하고 그랬어 이제 너희 상황이 내는 것도 믿었어 어디에 그것을 내지셔 so the abbot was saying that in the sutra there is a descriptions and explanations of the death process and it could be there are discussions from both the Sanskrit and Pali-based kind of sutras, but compared to the discussion that we found that compared to the descriptions regarding to the death process, we found independently they are more kind of less elaborative, and the descriptions of the death process, the dissolution process of the elements and the consciousness are more detailed and more kind of elaborated descriptions given in the training practices. And on top of that, the canons wanted to say that in our ordinary kind of form, in our ordinary kind of cases, the most important part is to be able to use all subtle consciousness to understand the nature of the reality and to be able to use sometimes in our day-to-day life when we have sleep, at that time we could experience a very short moment of kind of subtle consciousness. But the subtlest one is at the time of the death. If we could utilize the death, the consciousness, the subtle consciousness that manifests at the time of the death, then staying in that kind of state, a little bit longer kind of duration, that refers to Thukdam and not just just observing non-signs or just observing no signs of the decay doesn't mean not sufficient enough to make a conclusion that someone is in Thukdam state, but to be able to utilize that kind of subtle consciousness of the subtle kind of consciousness at the time of the death, one has to have lots of practices when he or she is alive. Otherwise, it is very difficult or almost impossible to be able to utilize that. And the most important part is to use the subtlest consciousness as a cognizer of the nature of the reality. And yeah. Yes. So Thukdam is the interpretations and the descriptions of Thukdam is not only just kind of it's not just kind of having a presentation of Thukdam in the scriptures, but also we do see or to observe the actual case of Thukdam here several times, and then Geshe stayed in Thukdam for more than 50 days. No, it's 30 days also. 28. Yes, previous several of the practitioners from Gandhishasya and Gandhishasya stayed for 26 or 28 days or something like that. And similarly, this kind of Thukdam case has been happening in the Sarah and Remy as well. And the 100th throne holder of the Gandhi Gelu tradition stayed in Thukdam for 21 days.
Thank you very much for our presenters as well as those who raised questions and all the answers. And now we would like to conclude here for the lunch. platform 주시면서 시간이 미세기를 많이 손실하려고 하는 애들이 아무튼 이렇게 보시는 유의미하게